Imagine spending $44 billion on something people claim is dying. Sounds like a mistake, right? Well, that's exactly what Elon Musk did when he took over Twitter, except it wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated move in a much bigger battle, the fight over media control. Musk saw something others missed, an opportunity to reshape how information spreads. But to understand why his takeover was so significant, we need to look at how we got here. Once, there were newspapers, television, and radio. These three expanded their powers over the world. If anyone wanted news, that person would probably get it from a few sources, all of which were under the control of power-filled media empires. These decided what was important when something was to be aired and when it would be disregarded. But there was a change. The moment a new medium hit the public, all the mediums that had existed took a backlash. Radio lost its grip with the rise of television. Newspapers swelled with the growth of 24-hour churners. Then, the internet arrived and dealt a death knell to the traditional media mammoths. First, media companies retrained to go online. But they made an important mistake, misjudging the growth of social media. Then came MySpace and Facebook, connecting, sharing, and consuming content in a more personal way. Suddenly, people were not consuming news any longer. They were producing it, forging their new definitions for the word broadcast. No longer is it required to have a newsroom to spread info. A single post, a tweet, or a piece of video could reach millions overnight. Facebook became the king of this new landscape. Its algorithm didn't care about journalistic integrity. It prioritized engagement. The more clicks, shares, and outrage a post generated, the more it was promoted. This shift changed everything. Traditional news outlets, desperate to keep up, started chasing viral content instead of serious reporting. Not only was social media replacing news, but it was also taking away the control of the people's minds. Be it ordinary users or most of himself, by which politicians and celebrities would connect directly to the people. No mainstream media broadcasting was necessary. No other than that was Twitter. The more platforms there were, the more they grew into influence. And so did their business entities. Advertisements became the ever-powerful factor disrupting content, creating what could be seen and what could not. Social platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter began to focus on how long they could buy the use of their services through advertisements, therefore modifying their algorithms to favor content that keeps users longer attached. Such came at a price. Advertisements became corporate interests, and corporate interests became control. Suddenly, the platform didn't refer to reuniting people anymore. Instead, it was about controlling the storyline narratives about what was allowed and what was disallowed a lot. Some viewpoints were pushed, and opinions were subversively silenced. Twitter, renowned as a jungle of open conversation, began to restrict what could be and could not be said. Censorship was certainly a hot potato, the necessity for which was claimed by some for moderating against misinformation and hate speech. Others disparagingly called it an impingement on the freedom of speech, where tech titans would decide what opinions were appropriate. It made it different from all its competing things and was not just a social network, but a battlefield. And before Musk stepped into the scene, that battlefield had ample control over it. Unlike Facebook or Instagram, Twitter was never the biggest platform. It didn't have billions of users or a massive advertising empire. But what it did have was influence. Twitter was where news broke first, where politicians sparred, and where cultural debates unfolded in real time. Journalists, activists, and world leaders all used Twitter as their primary tool for communication. It was a digital town square where a single tweet could shift public opinion or spark global discussions. This made Twitter powerful, not in size, but in significance. But that power was fragile. Before Musk's takeover, Twitter was struggling financially, losing billions with no clear plan to turn things around. It was also losing trust. Accusations of bias, political interference, and inconsistent enforcement of rules left many questioning whether it was truly an open platform. This set the stage for Musk's entrance. He didn't just buy Twitter. He took control of the most important conversation hub in the world. Musk understood something critical. Traditional media was losing credibility, and social media was replacing it. Twitter wasn't just a platform. It was the future of media itself. By owning Twitter, Musk didn't just acquire a company, he acquired the power to shape global narratives. And the changes he made? They sent shockwaves through both Silicon Valley and the media industry. Over the last decade, social media networks have metamorphosed from open, unreserved forums to highly contested places where words fall under the scrutiny of referees. What began as an effort to minimize misinformation and hate speech has culminated in something far more stringent. Facebook, YouTube, and even Twitter have begun to monitor people very aggressively from time to time, often due to a collective effort from governments, advertisers, and activist groups. At first, users reported minor changes, labels for fact-checking, increased visibility for certain posts, and temporary bans. Soon after, entire accounts were deleted, with the only common factor being that most of them did not have clear explanations. Critics stated that these tech companies were no longer platforms, but gatekeepers of information, deciding what constituted acceptable discourse and what did not. It engendered a lot of anger, particularly among independent journalists, political commentators, and other public figures who depended on opening lines of communication to reach their audiences. These lines, however, became increasingly blurred between content moderation and outright censorship. And when the high-profile, controversial bans started happening, it was when the debate presently reached its boiling point. Banning public figures is the most controversial aspect of this censorship on social media. Twitter, indeed, hit the headlines for permanently banning big political names, celebrities, and even scientists who differ in views from the mainstream narrative. The most remarkable case was banning former US President Donald Trump in 2021. While billed as everyone's critic, going on a necessary step to prevent the spread of misinformation and incitement to violence, it has been hailed as a dangerous precedent by his supporters. If a sitting president could be silenced by the tech companies into submission, who else could it be? But that wasn't just in politics. Comedians, authors, and even medical experts have had their lights snuffed for voicing unpopular opinions. Such bans raised loud debates about free speech, corporatism, and the role of social media in democracy. The effects became clear. Millions of users sought alternatives. Platforms like Parler, Rumble, and Truth Social started gaining free speech, alternative ground against Twitter or Facebook. But none of those had the reach or influence of Twitter. This rising consciousness of dissatisfaction over social media censorship left a door open for one person, Elon Musk, when he came and promised a revolution. The world was taken aback in 2022 when Musk revealed his intention to purchase Twitter for a whopping $44 billion. His reason? Free speech was under assault, and Twitter had metamorphosed from what it was meant to be, an open platform, to an ideological echo chamber. At first, many viewed it as a publicity stunt, but he was absolutely serious about it. Blasting Twitter's veiled content moderation policies, lack of transparency, and financial struggles, he backed up his claims with actions. And when he eventually got the reins, he wasted no time changing. One of those changes was firing the executive elite at Twitter, among them the CEO and legal head who oversaw high-profile bans. He reinstated controversial accounts banned in the past, including that of Trump. He also introduced a new overhaul concerning the verification system, which opened it to anyone willing to pay. Musk's takeover sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley and the media industry. Some hailed him as a champion of free speech, while others warned that his changes could turn Twitter into a chaotic mess. Regardless of where one stands, one thing was clear. Musk's version of Twitter was unlike anything the platform had seen before. And it was just the beginning. Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter didn't just shake up social media, it ignited a direct battle with traditional media. For years, legacy outlets like the New York Times, CNN, and the Washington Post relied on Twitter to shape narratives and control public discourse. But Musk's push for free speech and transparency threatened their influence. One of his boldest moves was exposing internal Twitter files, revealing how the platform previously worked with government agencies and media organizations to suppress certain stories. This fueled accusations that the traditional media wasn't reporting facts, but manipulating them. Journalists who once had special privileges on Twitter found themselves treated like everyone else. Some even lost their verification badges, sparking outrage. Meanwhile, Musk publicly mocked major news outlets, calling them biased and obsolete. This clash wasn't just about Twitter, it was about control. And with Musk disrupting the old media order, the war for information was far from over. Musk's Twitter takeover isn't just about social media, it's about reshaping the future of information. Will he succeed in breaking the grip of traditional media? Or will the backlash prove too strong? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives.